worked in government 12 years in legislation, and I was already an experienced legislative counsel before I came to Cayman. The people in the Cayman Islands, including the most senior staff, the most senior, the chief officers and so on, they don't understand how to work on legislation. I can tell you that as a generalization. They don't know how to do that. Let me close on an anecdote. Mm-hmm. One minister, I want to mention who he is. He's a former minister now. I ran into him about 2017 outside a bank, and we were talking. He said, "Oh, I just read your book on the legislative process in the Cayman Islands," and he says, "Boy, I wish I had read that book when I was a minister." That's what he told me. So here he was a minister, and one of the most intelligent ministers, great debater, and yet he said that he wished he had read the book before he became a minister. So when people tell you, like when one member of the current government told me, "Oh, you know what, we can do your little course and I can read the book, but we are already doing those things." So I told her, I said, "You are already doing those things, but are you doing them correctly?" And that is the issue. At the end of the day, like Donald Trump said, you don't know what you don't know. There are certain known knows we know. There are certain known things that we know and certain known unknowns that we don't know. Yeah. So sometimes you can think you know what you're doing, but actually what you're doing it wrongly. I hope that I can help, but thanks very much for this time. I think that this went wrong. Government should use this as an opportunity now to train people and ensure that they can avoid this in future.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, thank you very much for that, and we'll pick it up another time, all right?
Thank you, sir.
Have a great weekend. It's open line, and we want to take your calls. When we come back from the break, we'll share a few things, but we want you to participate, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
The end of summer sale is happening now through September 14th at Beacon Furniture, offering discounts on selected furniture, 20% off lamps, and 50% off selected cushions. Refresh your home with gorgeous pieces from Beacon Furniture and save. Visit us at 386 Shamrock Road, opposite the Seafarers Hall. Call us at 943-2500 or check our website at www.beaconfurniture.ky. Beacon Furniture. Buy it today and have it in your home tonight. New Day. The Ready, Set, Learn by the Pursuit of Excellence Foundation, originally scheduled for Saturday, August 24th, now has a new date. Grand Cayman. Mark your calendars for August 31st for the exciting event. Free school supplies for those who still need, professional haircuts, games, yummy refreshments, and of course, fantastic prizes and surprises. This postponement is due to unforeseen circumstances, but shipping dilemma aside, Ready, Set, Learn is eager to get you geared up for back to school. Again, it's a new date for Grand Cayman of August 31st, but at the same time of 1 to 4 p.m. at the Lion Center. See you then. Let's make this school year the best one yet. Thank you to all our sponsors and volunteers for making it happen. This is one event you don't want to miss.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And a few things to share, but let's take this next call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Mr. Moderator, good afternoon, sir.
Hey, now this has to be a good day. I don't know if it's the rain or, but let's see where it takes us, man. Thank you for making it a double shot.
Yeah, well, I usually don't, but I'm not quite sure where you are and what you can or cannot see. I mean, I have a fair idea, but in Gold West, it is not raining.
Yeah. Well, I have a strong, very fertile and vivid imagination that allows me to see beyond the sunset and into the horizon. Who knows, where it may take me. So one can only dream.
Yes, sir. don't stop dreaming.
And dream more while you're awake, I'm told.
Yeah. Do you, if I call you Mr. Moderator, that's easier for me to say than Sterling?
Yeah, listen, because it's you and my deference to your age, not a problem.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Okay. I hate calling after Billy because even though he may be somewhat small in stature, he has big shoes, so it's hard to fill them.
Very impressive gentleman, huh?
Yes, sir. I had the pleasure of working with him, I suppose, most closely when we did the first Builders draft.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's when I started getting a lot of respect for that young man. Having said that, I think one of the gist of his, I didn't catch all of what he was talking about, but I think one of the gist was that we need to start training the current civil service staff to look at these things and do them properly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. At the other end of the spectrum, and this is directed solely to the Honorable Deputy Governor, if we aren't already doing these exit surveys of senior civil servants who are leaving, I think it should be done because we got people like Mr. Lem Hurston, who is still with us, who did, I don't want to say a century, but he has a long civil service history. We have Mr. Gilbert McLean, we have Dr. Linford Pearson,
yes,
and the list goes on.
Right.
On and on. Who, if we had recorded some of the things that they experienced, something they put into place, and newcomers could then search that database, either by topic or by person or whatever, then it would be a whole lot easier for newcomers to know how certain things have come about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can exclude me. That's not a problem. But there are a number of other senior civil servants who are no longer civil servants. Who I think if we had the benefit of their experience, their civil service, and as a result, in addition to the whole islands, would become a better place.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I certainly do not want to, take you off on a different path, but an exit.
That's okay. I'm flexible, not fit, but flexible.
And and recognizing, the many organizations, education in particular, may do exit surveys as their teachers use or, go to other posts or other places. So as employees leave, that would be helpful. But there is a civil service engagement survey, I think it's called or referred to, that seeks input from individuals within the employee, as well as perhaps even broken down by departments and and not necessarily to identify in a particular one. I wonder if that could be somehow expanded, or whether it would be beneficial to maybe sometimes gauge the public's view, former civil servants, not as a platform to gripe and complain, but to what you shared, how do we improve and sustain?
Is improving our processes.
Mm-hmm.
If it takes going back to why did a particular action or an action, what was the genesis for for that?
Mm-hmm.
And once we know those things, you may say, okay, well, I mean, that happened years ago. Is it still applicable today?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe yes, maybe no. But at least we have some historical perspective in which to relate to.
Right. I mean, we often talk about the evolution of power. Sometimes government wants to decentralize in terms of efficiencies and the like. But how do we ensure that what we're doing is not only, and perhaps in the instance of government, the action or inaction, whether it's ineffective or otherwise, impact almost every single facet of all of us, business as well as the individual, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you a very good example. Devolution, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
In planning terms, you have this centralization and decentralization as well.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s, it was talking about centralizing things, and that's why you have all the high schools and all the schools up there on Walker's Road, because, okay, if it's centralized, everything in one place, you could share facilities and this and that. So that economic term...
economies of scale?
Economies of scale. Now, you see, that has some impact in terms of, like, traffic, for example. Everybody's going to one spot, so you got more traffic happening in those spots.
Mm-hmm.
So now you need, quote-unquote, decentralize.
Yeah.
Then again, so they all have pros and cons. But if we look at it carefully, then we can choose the lesser of the two evils.
Yeah. To your point, and just that last one, was it the intent when the schools were determined to put the schools there, that was it? They were going to use shared spaces and everybody would benefit from whether it's the canteen, the play field, the hall. I mean, was that the point?
To the best of my recollection, yeah, because that was one thing we had a Mr. Bent. And he was here, seconded from UNDP.
Okay.
And he did a...
it's another waste of thing then.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did a plan from John Gray straight back to, I would say, up to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So he did, quote-unquote, a master plan for that entire area, which included, again, residential, commercial, little industrial, et cetera, open space.
Yeah.
But again, those things have come and gone.
Well, this is it, and we sometimes we say it with great regrets. We say it sometimes to malign, right? Oh, government has commissioned a report after report, and it just stays on the shelf. We can't unring the bell, we can't rewind the hands of time. But I wonder from what you just shared, can we look at what happens now and what we wish we could have done, and maybe not just mitigate, but perhaps course correct?
But again, when we started, quote unquote, developing in the early 70s, we've had so many neighbors who went through a similar experience. We had their experience on which to rely, so as not to make the same mistake as they did.
Mm-hmm.
But what did we do? Ignore them. And where are we? We are now where they were 100 years ago, because they've gone through the same issues and problems. Look at, I think it was OC this morning talking about Turks going to impose a mandate that large-scale developers have to provide housing for their foreign workers.
Mm-hmm.
Great move. Why should it be government that has to do it? Or again, now you're an economist. The private sector said once there's a demand, let the free market take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Has the free market taken care of the housing situation in Cayman? No. We got Caymanians and non-Caymanians building up pieces onto the house to a little room to rent. And that's putting pressure on planning now to have to go and enforce against them, all because the private sector isn't doing what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. But see, this is where that role, and I think where Cayman has always been a bit different, right? And we try now even, and I'm not going to speak within an authority, but I look at some of the changes in our systems from the legal to the regulatory, from planning perspective. Are we bringing something from Canada and superimposing it here? Are we borrowing a practice from, some other part of the world? Are we willing to ignore some of the things that may have happened in some of the places in the region that have created squalor in tenement yards, just because it's expedient to do so?
I would say yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
An example that I am familiar with, that is the building code.
Uh-huh.
Now they've got the International Building Code that anybody can adopt. We adopted it and changed certain things that aren't applicable to Cayman. Did we change enough things? I would say no. But for example, you got like your snow load on your roofs and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't applicable to us. I mean, I don't think myself, you, or anyone right now is going to experience any snow loads on our roofs.
Well, it depends. Is it a shipment coming in? I mean, it depends.
Yeah. So, okay, we delete that.
Okay.
But, okay, in terms now of, for example, looking at the provision of handicap parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Under the code, like one space for the first 20 parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the U.S. has a whole lot more quote-unquote handicapped persons than we do, mainly because of they've been fighting in the wars and this and that. A number of other reasons also, but yeah. So their demand for those spaces would be greater than ours.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't be adopting that same standard because the conditions in the U.S. are different than they are here.
Right. So to what extent are we willing? We talk about customizing bespoke legislation, and I'm mindful that we're into OT. But if we are creating bespoke legislation for financial services or even allegedly, peculiar and particular parties as they go about their property and profitable developments. Are we not willing to do the same for our own selves, whether it's for building? I mean, think back to when the first building code was at the Southern Building Code, and the fire component, Mr. Nixon and his, wisdom, I think, on his deputy chief, Mr. Grant, insisted that we enshrined in some very, very stringent fire standards that were, I think, if my memory serves correct, above what the code asks for at the time, right?
Yes, and again, that's a very forward-looking approach.
Right.
And probably one of the reasons why today we may be not suffering as much from fire, let's say fire accidents or fire occurrences as some other jurisdictions, because of things like Mr. Nixon got put in place, but he couldn't do it on his own.
Right.
He had to go up to the chain of command and all the rest of it. So,
yeah. Well,
But again, thanks for the politicians who had the wisdom and took his recommendations, actually enshrined it in law.
Yeah. Well, I think, I'm grateful that you would reach out to us, hopefully through you, if you can find time, in your new space to come in more and we can talk about these, because they help to inform public policy and educate us generally. Hey, thank you very much for your time, sir.
All right, give me a call. See what we can do between now and Christmas.
You know what? I have my people call your people. Thanks again. Talk to you soon, all right?
Have a good weekend.
And to you, sir. And to you. Okay. And as we wrap it up, thanks for the extra seconds. One caller or a listener message says that the call is half right. It's because the private sector is doing what the private sector wants to do. The big question is, why is government allowing them to? Well, a lot of other things that we can share with our listeners. We want you to come back and be a part of our continuing discussions as we unfold, But join me start Monday morning for the record. Come back for talk today. Maybe I'll leave this with us. I asked the question and maybe we can pursue it. One was the Westminster model. What is it? Why is it? Is it, as the UK has said at some point, in their unwritten constitution, they intend to make some changes, operating by convention as much as anything else. But do we need to look at it? Is the role of the caucus the way it is needs to be perhaps changed, abolished, properly defined? And then when it comes to the credit union, maybe as members or just the general public, do we know how other credit unions operate globally? Is this one hampered? And these are just questions, could amendments to our legislation not only allow the credit union to be more competitive and profitable, but would it help to redefine that financial services space so that as members we are benefiting even more or without increased costs, not only from the payment of fees to government, but perhaps through the use of available technology, online transfers between members, transfers from the credit union to other institutions and vice versa, the use of some sort of electronic card, we may call it a debit card. Now, what does that involve? Not saying that these have not been considered, just asking, is legislation a hindrance? Maybe in return for higher fees, you get a greater latitude by legislation. Again, just questions. Listen, one thing's for sure, take a page from our two earlier guests who had the courage to speak out and to stand in the gap. Are we doing the same? Well, I will look at the clock and say in 6 minutes in, perhaps another minute wouldn't matter, but sometimes a day late and a dollar short may put you in a place that you never wanted to be. God's willing, you'll have a safe, blessed, and productive, very enjoyable weekend. And if it's raining where you are and you get wet, dance in the rain and just, be blessed. If you look at it and complain about the heat, well, is it because you're talking too much or is it that you're standing still? Either way, are you productive? Until Monday, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman.